Hello to anyone watching. I hope this means that maybe your babies or toddlers are down for a nap. Maybe you're getting a minute to yourself, which is always nice. I'm super excited for today's live. An amazing company. I just posted today about bare feet and the importance of bare feet and a really minimalist shoe. And so we're going to be talking with a company today who's really supporting that mission. I think Kitten is going to be joining me here in just a second. See if I can show here. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Kaylee.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. So I was just telling everyone who's watching that, I talk a lot on my page about how important minimalist shoes are and going barefoot. And we're really so privileged here in the US to have access to shoes and be able to just go out and have so many different options at all different price points that most of us can afford. But I'm really excited to introduce your company. I want to turn it over to you to give kind of your spiel about Grow 5. I've got Ada's here, so just like as a point of reference, my daughter loves these.
Oh,
She consistently
great.
chooses these now, especially now that it's warm. She thinks they're so cool. So to show you guys, and I'm sure Kitten can kind of go through it a little bit more, but these shoes are adjustable up to 5 sizes or 6 sizes?
Five sizes.
Five
Yeah.
sizes. Okay, so you can see here, there's all these little points where you can adjust them. You can adjust these straps on the side, on the back. They're so awesome. I love that these are going to fit her for so many years to come. But even cooler, and you can kind of talk about your mission behind this, but I know in college I got really jazzed up about like the whole Toms movement and really excited about that. But then you think how fast kids outgrow shoes, and I didn't have a point of reference for that as a college student because I didn't have kids, but we've had summers where our daughter went through 3 shoe sizes in 3 months. And I can only imagine if a family in a third world country were to get this beautiful new pair of shoes and then they don't fit for very long, and how devastating that would be to wonder when that next shipment is going to come through, or just hoping and maybe wearing shoes when they don't fit actually, and how much harm and damage that can do to the feet. So I'm going to quit talking. I want to turn it over to you.
Well, it is so great to chat with you. Thank you so much, Kaylee. And yeah, so my name is Kenton. I live in Idaho. And boy, about 15 years ago now, it's been a while now, but where all this came from was right after college. I traveled the world for about a year, lived in Ecuador and then lived in Kenya. And when I was living in Kenya, I lived and volunteered at a small orphanage. And long story short, one day I was walking with all the kids, and there was this little girl walking next to me. She was about 7 or 8 years old. I'll never forget, she had on this beautiful white dress. And as we're walking, I looked down at her, and I was shocked because she was wearing these shoes that were way too small for her feet. The shoes were so small, she had to cut open the front to let her toes stick out. And I don't know if she hadn't worn these before, or if I hadn't noticed that she'd worn these or what, but it was like the first time I was seeing this, and it just really kind of stuck with me and got to me. And kind of with new eyes, I looked around, and many of the kids would do this. They were cutting open the front of their shoes to let their toes stick out. And so later that day, I asked the director of the orphanage, like, why do so many kids have shoes that don't fit? And some of the things you were just saying right there, I mean, he said, these are kids, their feet are growing all the time. We don't have enough money to buy them shoes, even cheap shoes, when their feet are growing, and they just have to do the best with what they have. And sometimes they'll hand them down to other kids, or sometimes they won't wear any shoes, or sometimes they'll cut open the front to let their toes stick out. So right then and there, it was the only idea I've ever had in my life. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an inventor, but an idea popped into my head. Hey, what if there was a shoe that could adjust and expand its size? What if there was a shoe that could grow? Like, it seems like that might to that bigger size when their foot grows. So yeah, what if there was a shoe that could grow? And so I wrote that idea down. When I got back home to Idaho and kind of jumped back in with regular life, I still wanted to do something to try to make a difference. And so I went back to my journal, went back to that idea for a growing shoe, and decided to jump in with it. Grabbed a few friends, and we jumped in with this idea. It took us 6 years to work on this, and if it's okay, I wanted to show, just as an example, again,
Yeah.
I am not an engineer, so I didn't know what I was doing, but this is the prototype that I made out in the garage.
I love it.
So it's like an old crock that I cut up a little bit, and then it's just some like construction paper, and we weren't really going to use push pins, but the push pins were just trying to show, like, I was just trying to think, like, how could a shoe grow? You know, how could a shoe adjust and expand its size? This was a terrible prototype, but it helped us kind of get down the road, and we finally found a great shoe design company to work with. They took us through like a real design process, and then we made 100 pairs of a prototype, and my wife and I took them back to Kenya, put them in 4 different schools, and had kids try them out for about a year. Got some great feedback, and finally we made our first batch of what we called, at that time, we called it the shoe that grows. And you mentioned Grow 5, which I'm so excited to talk about. So we kind of do 2 things. We have a nonprofit that we call it the Shoe That Grows, and the nonprofit, the name of the nonprofit is Because International. But then we have our commercial side, which also does some great things, and the commercial side is called Grow 5.
Okay.
And so just to wrap that up in a very long story, long at this point, but yeah, we had finally done it. Like, we had created this shoe that could grow 5 sizes. It could last for years. We were starting to get them out to kids around the world through our nonprofit. And then we had people asking if they could buy it. Like, could they buy it for their own kids? And at the same time, I started having kids, my wife and I. And like you said, kind of that point of reference, I started to see it firsthand. Wow, my kids, their feet are growing all the time. And so my kids wear these too, and they love them as well. But we started to have people ask if they could buy the shoes here in the U.S., and that's where Grow 5 came from. Grow 5 is kind of our commercial version of our growing shoes, and it's a really cool program, and it's a really cool shoe, and I'd love to share more about it, but I also don't want to talk too long. So
You're doing great. I think this is all awesome. That is one of the questions I had, because I know families are going to want to know, like you said, like, if they want a pair, how can they get them? But what does that pair benefit? But I want to step back too into what you were talking about with the shoes. I did a mission trip to Guatemala, and something that I didn't know is that in many countries, children cannot attend school unless they have a pair of shoes. And so that is a huge impact. You know, the fact that if a child does not have shoes, we sometimes think, oh, you know, it's bad for their feet, or it might be unsafe, or it could introduce infection points and things like that, be uncomfortable. But really, the school thing, how limiting that can be if a child doesn't have a shoe that properly fits or that they can wear at all. So tremendous benefit of these. And something I want to talk about too, because I know a lot of people watching know what I look for in a shoe. I love a really flexible shoe. So I love that the Grow 5 shoes are very, very flexible, but they're also puncture proof, is kind of what I call it. Like, we know that our kids are going to be able to go out and run and climb and hike and do all the kinds of kids things, but they're not going to have excessive heat or cold on the bottom of their foot, and they're also not going to step on something and it puncture through the shoe, which is really, really important. I always look for lots of adjustability, because kids' feet are different and they change even within the same size. Just their foot structure changes, the arch is developing tremendously. So I love all of this adjustability for getting it really comfortable for the kids. And yeah, I love that it doesn't just grow in length, but it grows in width as well. There's all these little Velcro loops along the side. So whenever you guys reached out, I mean, I think it's been over 6 months, maybe almost a year ago. I thought, this is genius. This is incredible. So I do want you to talk about the difference between buying commercial. If someone buys a pair off your website, what does that do? Does it just pay for the shoes, or does it do more than that? And then also how someone could give back you said because international, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us about those two routes.
Definitely, and I love that you point out. I love you got to go to Guatemala and see that firsthand. I mean, those are life-changing trips. You know, when you can get out of what is. I mean, I love living in Idaho. I'm born and raised. I love it here. But anytime that I get to travel, I mean, it really just helps shape your world, right? And so that for me, that was world-shaping, life-changing for me when I went to, especially Kenya, because it was so different than Idaho. I really didn't know that having shoes or not having shoes was a big deal. I didn't know that. I used to run around as a kid barefoot all the time in Idaho in the summers, and it wasn't a big deal. But like you said, it's not only for these kids around the world, it's not only the injuries, the cuts, the scrapes, the discomfort that comes from not having shoes, but there are also soil transmitted diseases that are entering the body through the feet as they live in areas that lack adequate sanitation and clean water, things like that. And then also, like you said, for many kids, they have a required school uniform, and shoes are often a mandatory part of that school uniform. And if they don't have shoes, then they're not able to go to school. And many kids have to walk so far to go to school as well. It just makes a huge difference for attending school when they have a pair of shoes. We like to say shoes are a small thing that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't solve every problem for the kids who receive them. It doesn't fix everything in their lives. They often have many other challenges related to poverty, but it is a small thing that makes a big difference. And so that's why we are so passionate about connecting our shoes to kids around the world. But it's a great shoe. And one of my favorite parts about it, so the non-profit version, which is called The Shoe That Grows, and an easy way to search it is just to Google The Shoe That Grows, and we pop right up. You can learn all about what we're doing with The Shoe That Grows, connecting it to kids around the world. And our Grow 5 shoe, which we actually rebranded commercially and call it Expandals.
Okay.
So The Shoe That Grows and Expandals, it's the exact same shoe. We do not give a different shoe to kids in a nonprofit way, in a charity way, and then reserve a better shoe or a different shoe for the commercial version. It's the exact same shoe. And so, yeah, showing you the Expandal, we love that it can, like you were kind of showing, it can lengthen. So if you want to start shorter, you can start it kind of short up here. We have a thing that looks like a number 5, but this hook connects into these loops. So the kids can put it wherever they want it. You can shorten it up, and as the foot grows, you can lengthen it. We love that feature. And then, like you said, it has these Velcro straps on the sides, so it can grow in that width as well. The Velcro strap on the back, one over the top. We actually have a patent. We have 2 patents for the shoe, but the one that really was kind of something that no one had ever done actually relates to the sole of the shoe. So as the foot just naturally grows, something that kids would never adjust, something your daughter would never adjust, would be the bottom of the shoe, but that's really where a lot of the growth comes from. And the shoe, most shoes are meant to hold their shape. They're really not very flexible, like you said. Our shoes are designed to be really flexible and designed to just unfold. So as the foot just kind of pushes against it as it grows, the sides, the front, and the back, it's all able to kind of unfold and continue to provide that coverage for the foot. So yeah, these can grow 5 sizes. They can last for years. And then in a commercial way, we actually never even thought we were going to sell shoes commercially, partly because it's kind of a weird shoe. It's kind of different, you know, it's not really a sandal. It's not really a shoe. It's kind of a unique shoe that we just designed really for kids living in extreme poverty around the world. But then once we had people asking, we started Grow 5 to make it possible for people to purchase them commercially here in the US. And so they're for sale for $40. People can purchase them either on Amazon or on grow5.com, which Grow5, we misspelled it. There's no W. So just GROFIVE, grow5.com. So they're $40. Actually, our nonprofit shoes, our partners just pay $20. We keep those as low cost as we can. so that we can get as many of those out as we can. But on the commercial side, these are $40 a pair. But then part of that extra we use to try to do some good things with our shoes. So one of those things is a percentage of that sale goes right back to Because International. It goes right back to our nonprofit and helps us get more pairs of the shoe that grows to kids around the world. But then the other thing we're able to do is with the portion of every sale as well, we have groups here in the U.S. who ask for our shoes. We actually just sent, I think it was 400 pairs to a ministry that works with homeless in Los Angeles. It's called Chloe Cares. And Chloe took our shoes and was able to really just go out on the streets and give our shoes to people who need them. And so whether it's shoes around the world or giving extra pairs of our shoes to people here in the U.S., with every purchase of one of our expandals, a portion of that goes back to help us do the work that we're doing. And so it really makes a big difference. And then the other cool thing that we do, some people don't know this and it's kind of getting in the weeds, but the nonprofit actually owns the commercial company. So anything that happens with the commercial company, any good that comes from it, really does go right back into the nonprofit and make a big difference. And so we just love it when anybody wants to check out what we're doing. We actually have, so even though the shoe grows 5 sizes, it can last for years. We have sizing at every size. So whatever size of shoe you're looking for, you know, kids 11 or a men's 4 or women's 7, we have all of those sizing so that you can get the full 5 sizes of growth out of that shoe. And we have a couple different colors on the commercial side as well. And so we think it's a really cool shoe. We just love it. Again, it's come a long ways from this to this. It's been such an exciting and kind of unexpected journey for me and for our team as we work with our shoes. And we're just so pleased to be able to share our story and connect with people that think it's interesting, because we think it's pretty interesting, and we love getting our shoes to kids around the world and also for kids here in the U.S. who it makes a lot of sense for.
Amazing. Well, and I plan to do a post talking all about this and explaining the differences so people can do it, but I'm just thinking $40. I mean, I'm bad at math, but I'm thinking for 5 sizes, that's like $8 a pair of shoes, right? Incredibly cheap for families.
Yeah.
Ada has been really tough on these. Like, these are her go out and get in the mud shoes. They wipe clean really nicely. I haven't actually tried to wash them in the washing machine yet because we've just sort of let them get dirty, but they're a great minimalist shoe option. I think the commercial side, a lot of people are going to be interested in. But let me clarify then, for the Because Internationals, let's just say someone's watching this or they watch it later, and they're like, man, I really want to give back. Do they then just go to, you know, the Shoe That Grows on Google or Because International on Instagram? I know it's linked in your bio on Grow5 too. And donate directly? Can they commit to sending X number of shoes? Like, what does that process look like?
That's a great question. Yep. So anybody who's interested in helping on the Because International side with the Shoe That Grows, like I said, it's $20. $20 equals 1 pair of shoes for a child around the world. We have certain partners that we work with. So for anybody watching and wanting to help out, you don't need to go to Guatemala yourself, you know, go to Kenya yourself. You could just donate $20 and that equals 1 pair of shoes. We also have a really cool monthly donor program called The Soul. And for The Soul, you could do as little as, you know, $5 a month if you wanted, but a lot of people join our monthly program. They donate $20 each month, and they know that for each month they're helping give 1 pair of shoes to a child. It's a really cool monthly giving program that we offer. But the other cool thing, and I'll share this because maybe there's 1 or 2 people watching that would fit this category. Maybe you do have a trip planned. Maybe you're going with an organization that you know, or somebody, even just a personal trip. Maybe you are going to be working with kids who are challenged by poverty. That's how we get a lot of our shoes to the kids who need them, is by connecting them to people who are traveling and who are working with partners around the world. So a lot of our shoes, people will purchase we do a duffel bag where we can fit 50 pairs, 50 pairs, and it weighs right at 50 pounds. So you can check it onto a plane, take it with you as you travel, and then hand deliver it to the kids that you work with. And so if people are interested in that, we could, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about your trip, and you could purchase our shoes and take it with you to hand deliver to some kids that you're working with too. So lots of ways to be involved, and like you said, you can check us out on Instagram, or you can Google the shoe that grows, and we pop right up.
I love it. That's so amazing. Yeah, when I went on my trip, we took a second carry-on. Everyone was required to do that second carry-on, and we filled it with supplies. So that'd be such a great way. And they are, like you said, relatively lightweight. So 50 shoes at 50 pounds, that's an incredible impact. And I'm already just like my wheels are turning domestically, thinking about like schools about to let out for the summer, and many kids may not have proper shoes over the summer, or beyond, but what a
Yep.
cool way to maybe just drop a few pairs in the nurse's office at your school, or talk with someone on the school board about who could disperse those. Often people, that are very involved in administration know who the kids are who really
That's
need those.
that's so true. And
That'd be
and we
awesome.
and we yeah, and we love that. It's funny, whether it's here in the US or especially internationally, we always say, like, we don't know the kids who need shoes, so we love talking to the people that do. And so yeah, whether it's at home, in school or church or whatever it might be, or internationally, we're always trying to talk to people and organizations that work with kids. But I will say, just so people have a little better understanding, so we're here in Idaho. And even literally this morning, it snowed. It was crazy. It's still snowing over here, but we have a winter. These really, just to be honest, these are not great winter shoes. And I can say that from experience. I wanted to wear a pair of our shoes. We do have adult size as well.
Okay.
The largest they go is through a men's size 12. And so we do have adult sizing. So I wore a pair of our shoes every single day for 5 years. I wanted to see if they really could last as long as we thought they could last. And they did great. I really beat it up. It looks bad now, but it was a great pair of shoes for 5 years. But I wore these in the winters here in Idaho just because I wanted to, but really they weren't designed for that. But like you said, this time of year is a great time of year for these shoes. And even if you live in an area of the country that is a little bit colder in the winter, and like for my kids, these are great summer shoes. They pull these out in the summer, and it's like, hey, this summer we don't need to go buy a new pair of summer shoes because we've already got our expandals that are ready to go, and we just adjust it a little bit and it's ready to go. So if you do live in a cold weather place, again, it's kind of a shoe sandal hybrid. You can strap it up, you can tighten it up, you can run in these, you can play soccer in these. It's way better than a flip-flop in that kind of a way. But it definitely does not cover the entire foot, and it gets a little cold in the winter. But this is a great warm weather shoe for kids here in the U.S. and obviously around the world. My kids also love to use it as a water shoe.
Yeah.
So if we're out at the river, if we're at the lake, like you said with your daughter, I mean, these can get muddy, they can get beat up. My kids love using it as kind of that kind of rough and tumble outdoor kind of a shoe, and it is pretty easy to clean. It's easy to wash. It's gotten a lot better. It didn't used to be this good, but what we have now, it's a fantastic shoe, and that's why we're so proud of selling them both commercially and providing them to kids around the world through our nonprofit as well. But it's a great pair of shoes. We'd love for anybody that wants to check it out, and you can definitely reach out and ask us questions too. We love answering questions. We answer every phone call. We respond to every email, every DM. We just love connecting with people who are interested in what we're doing.
That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I had one final thing I was going to say about these, and I totally lost it.
It's
No,
probably
it's
because I
a
was
question.
talking too much.
No,
I'm so sorry. I've been
you were not
talking
at
way
all.
too
You
much.
were not at all. It's just my afternoon mom brain where like the coffee's wearing off, and I probably shouldn't have another cup. But someone asked in the very beginning if they would work for SMOs or like an orthotic. And so I want to touch on that from my point of view as a PT. These are what I would call a minimalist shoe. They hit kind of all of those checkpoints for me with like the zero drop and the flexibility. Very, very nuanced and unique for kids who need orthotic support. I can't prescribe or predict what exactly they need. But my methodology is it's awesome to also have time if functionally they're able to be in a shoe like this. So maybe some part of their day they're in a tennis shoe with their SMO in it, but it's incredibly valuable for their feet to have a shoe that's more minimalist so that their own body can begin to develop some of those muscles and strength and stability in the joint in the foot and ankle. So that's kind of a broad overview, but a minimalist shoe can still be very valuable to a child as long as it's not inhibiting their function. And what I love is that even though it is a sandal, there's a lot of toe protection here. And so if kids are prone to tripping and falling, I know my daughter needed some arch support initially, and she would trip and fall a lot without it at first. We at least know that those toes are protected, and really most of the foot is protected from tripping and falling and like scuffing or anything like that. I know the other question I had for you is how small do they go down to? Because I've got lots of baby and toddler mamas and lots of mamas of kiddos who are getting older like my kids are as well. But what is the smallest size you guys offer?
Yeah, great question. I should know this better on the specifics. I know that our smallest size is for toddlers.
Okay.
So yeah, I know for my daughter when she was 3, we had her wearing our very smallest size. I don't want to say the wrong thing and get embarrassed, but whatever a small size would be,
Yeah.
we do have that. We've got, and then again, kind of starting from there, we have each size as it builds up. And anyone that has specific questions, our team here is awesome, and they know a lot more than I do about all this. But and I love what you just said, Kaylee. I'm learning as I'm on this call. This is great. I loved everything you just said. Actually, a lot of what you said, I know bits and pieces, but I should sit down with you sometime and have you give me a whole lesson on this. But just to ask you something, and maybe to share another piece of our shoes that we see something that is ordered a lot,
Okay.
and maybe it has something to do with what you're saying. So one other piece that we have for our shoes, we do offer an extension Velcro that I think just for a couple dollars can be added to an order for our shoes. So for these Velcro straps on the sides, as people are expanding the shoe, if they need a little bit more expansion, we do provide extra Velcro to do that. And I think just anecdotally, I believe that some people have done that as they have a foot brace that they might be wearing, or as one foot is just larger than another, or just extremely large for various reasons. Even though our shoe does expand, they need a little more expansion. And so we do have extra Velcro straps that help provide more expansion for our shoes. And I know that a lot of people do place that order and order the expansion Velcro as well. Just make it even a little bit bigger. And again, I'm wondering if some people are putting a foot with a brace of some kind and then using this as a shoe to cover over the brace.
I could see it being a really valuable option because in my clinical practice, what we discover is so many shoes cannot accommodate for the width that and the height of the foot that is increased with adding like an AFO or an SMO, those things that go around the foot and ankle and even up to the knee. And what people often think is, well, I should just go up a shoe size. But that becomes more problematic because you're not always getting more width, but you're getting so much depth that, especially for really little kids who are just learning to walk, they're tripping and falling a lot. So I can see it being really advantageous there because parents of kiddos specifically, I'm kind of just speaking to my area of expertise, but parents of kiddos that wear orthotics are just desperate for a sandal. Like it's really hard to find a sandal in the summer that their kid doesn't have to wear tennis shoes all summer long, that they can be in a sandal. So I can see this being really, really appealing to a family who uses orthotics because of all the adjustability. And specifically speaking to not just orthotics, down to the smaller sizes, babies are born with a fat pad in their foot, and we know babies have those like chunky, squishy little feet. And so often they're almost as kind of tall as they are wide sometimes when they have those really chunky feet. And so same thing, parents think, well, maybe I need to size up. So I could see those strap extenders like you're talking about being really advantageous for them. And I'll just give a plug and I'll say, like, probably for anyone watching this, they're agreeing. If you expanded to like baby and early toddler stages, I think that would be a huge market, at least for the mamas in my community, because like that, whenever children learn to stand and bear weight through their feet, the foot size can grow significantly because our bones grow in response to the stress that we place on them. So a baby may have a teeny tiny little, you know, like 6 to 9 month size foot, and then suddenly once they're up and walking, then they're in a size 1, and then the next month they're in a size 2, because as they're putting all that weight and pressure through their foot, all that cartilage in their feet is transitioning into bone. It's strengthening, it's expanding. As they're standing up, it's turning in from that little like curled baby foot into a real foot that's growing and expanding. And so, you know I was desperate when our daughter went through so many sizes and it was so expensive. And here I am, the PT who wants her to have really good shoes, but then looking at our budget thinking, I can't buy her 3 high quality pairs of shoes in 3 months that are serving the same need. So that's my little shameless plug that we would be very interested in that if you guys expanded your size range.
I appreciate that, and we'll have to do a little more marketing around the sizes that we currently do have and see if that's a good fit for some of those families. But you know, it's been funny. And I'm happy to admit this. We you know, I wasn't expecting to do any of this years ago. This was not my plan. And then again, had this random idea, decided to try to make it happen. It took forever. Finally did it. We actually accidentally went viral is kind of how the nonprofit really started to take off. And that was 8 years ago. And then probably about 5 years ago, we started Grow 5, started the commercial side. And so we are still learning so much about ways that our shoes could be useful. We did not anticipate that anybody would use it for different foot issues either. We just thought, oh, it grows, it's going to be great for kids. But we've had people use those extensions and use it for different reasons for their feet. We've had people use it a ton as an outdoor shoe, and like we still feel like we're scratching the surface, barely scratching the surface for hopefully what a valuable piece of footwear this could be for many families and many people. And so every little conversation just like this, we're always learning, we're always trying to find new ways to connect this to people who need them, both in a nonprofit way and in a commercial way. And so Kaylee, you've been so helpful today. I love your feedback. I love your involvement. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And for anybody listening and watching, if you have any ideas on what we should be doing with our shoes, or if you have any feedback, I mean, please let us know. We just feel like we're all in this together, and we're just trying to connect our shoes to as many kids and families and people that need them as possible. And it's been so fun to, over these years to see people kind of join us in our journey and be a really big part of what we're doing. 8 years ago, this was 3,000 pairs of shoes in my guest bedroom. And now we've distributed over 400,000 through our nonprofit to kids in over 100 countries. And we're so excited with what we're doing with Grow 5 to provide a great commercial option for families that are needing a solution in this kind of footwear space. And so it's just been so fun to be a part of this. And thank you for being a part of it today, Kaylee. And thanks for letting me share a little bit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So anyone watching, stay tuned. I will be putting out a post kind of explaining those 2 sides, explaining the benefits of these shoes. I know lots of people's kids have 2 different size feet too. That's another need that you guys are serving on that commercial side that is then going to help so many other children through the nonprofit as well. So I'm excited to get that out there. And thank you for sharing all this. I know a lot of people I was seeing in the comments saying like, this is really cool. This is exciting. These are the ones Ada has. I love those blue ones that you have though. I'm already thinking about those for my son Redding. I like that blue and gray. That's super cool. So definitely give Grow 5 a follow. In their bio on their Instagram page, it has that Because International link. Go check them out. See if you could do the $20 a month. That would be incredible to know you're giving 12 pairs per year of shoes to kids who really need them. Or you can even consider buying them in bulk and having them in your car, taking them to a school, whatever it may be. But I'm really excited about your mission. I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg for you guys. I think it's going to continue to really take off. It's such an amazing idea on so many facets. So thank you for taking the time to be here.
This was a pleasure, for real. This was so fun to chat with you. Thanks so much. And I'm kind of new at this. Do I just sign off? Do I just hop off?
Yeah, I think I have to hit the X and we'll say goodbye. Have a great day.
Gotcha. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks.